Hello, my name is Mordred Viking, and I'd like to welcome you to this stream of Hearts of Iron 4. This is the Grand Principality of Central Siberia, also known as Kemerovo, and we are still, of course, frickin' sound. I always look around as well. Led by that enigmatic ruler that is Rurik II. We're currently working on improving our industry. We have sorted out our succession, and Prince Yuri is now our designated successor. Lydia didn't seem particularly happy about that though, so I'm sure that's completely forgotten and will never ever come up again. Ever. So we're doing the work programs, which is going to get us some building slots, then we're going to do the Royal University charters, and then basically all of this stuff, which is going to be a big boost to the societal development. Meanwhile, we are also working through our decisions. The regional development stuff does seem to be coming back every now and then, so we're working on that. And ultimately, we're trying to get to prepare for war, which will allow us to effectively reunite Russia. This will give us a thing against the divine mandate of Siberia. So we're currently building up and preparing for that particular eventuality. In the meantime, we are increasingly in debt. The GDP is growing. That number is going up, which is good. Now, debt interest has actually gone down from 12% to 4% because we just redid our currency. And hopefully, just the general rate of building factories and infrastructure, and the infrastructure means more resources, which means more GDP from resource exports. So it is growing, but also it's a slow recovery. And we are going to have an awful lot of debt to pay off here. Unfulfilled import requests. Oh, Japan! Not sending me the rubber. They don't actually have any. We'll just have to buy it from Indonesia. In fact, do I even need... Yes, I do. I need the 8. So we'll buy 8 from you. No, they're back again. How very strange. Well, we're buying from Indonesia now. No matter. Alright, onwards. Civilian Construction 3, finished. What were we going to do after that? I think we're basically just building up the construction stuff now. We could probably also do with upgrading these to the most modern. And then also the production technologies. I hadn't even realised we didn't have this yet. Okay, our production is a little bit out of date. We're still working on mostly civilian stuff, I think, so we don't necessarily need the military construction upgrades. But the production efficiency and the production output, yeah, we do want those. Yeah, okay. Gotta work on this stuff. By improving the infrastructure of the nation, we shall improve our efficiency and productivity by a large margin, as well as making transport of goods easier. Alright, off it goes. The Russo-Finnish ceasefire signed. The northern war had bogged down to a stalemate when its calls for a ceasefire were agreed by both sides. The army of the Provisional Commissariat of Western Russia successfully overran most of the Onagan Russian auxiliaries, but the difficult terrain and the lack of modern equipment made for a breakthrough in Karelia too difficult for the rest Russian power. Sitting behind fortifications, lakes and marshes, the small yet modern Finnish army managed to repeat its previous defensive successes of the Winter War. It is expected that the Finns will cut loose their erstwhile allies in Onega. In exchange, Provisional Commissariat of Western Russia is expected to recognize Finnish claims to Karelia. This defeat is a setback to the ambition of the West Russians, who see themselves as the embryo of a restored Russian nation. Nevertheless, the High Command has likely decided to cut its losses and focus on its eastern ambitions. So these guys just lost a war against the Finns, and that has now become a demilitarized zone. So the Western Siberian Republic is still pretty small. I wonder if these two still need to coalesce into one state. Because clearly we're a bit bigger than those guys. And then we also have Kazakhstan, which is like a new beacon of democracy and progress throughout the world. Which is kind of cool. What templates do I have? Nothing really spectacular, because we've never had the army experience for it. But we have got... Why is that at the back? That's usually over here somewhere. We've got the Drużynia, which are our regular infantry, which is just support artillery, support engineers, and some infantry. We've got the Shield Maidens, which are a mixture of elite infantry and regular infantry, line artillery, support AT, which just uses anti-tank equipment. I was like, hang on a second, I don't remember having support AT in production, but we do. Recon, engineers and artillery. And then most importantly, we have the Strelsti, which are like the pride of the army. They are 5 units of APCs, 5 units of modern battle tanks, APC recon, though we'll probably switch that to IFV recon, engineers, and then support artillery. And these units hit really, really, really hard. They're good. They're very good. And we've just started producing our own tanks, which are actually more modern than the ones we started with, so we'll be replacing the ones that are in the field slowly but surely. Okay, so we're getting the support weapons up. We could go with even more modern trucks, but no, I think I need to double down on the old industry, because we are kind of behind on this. So we need to make a choice on the production side as to whether we want to go batch production or mass production. So mass production is efficiency cap, efficiency growth, and just output. This one is retention cap, efficiency base, and then less output. I think I'm just going to go raw output, because we don't tend to change our production that frequently. So we'll go with this. Focusing on standardizing production methods across the board using assembly lines, the production process is quickened, and all of the interchangeable parts produced become of a standard quality, mutually exclusive of batch production. Okay. Do I have a plan to use helicopters? Maybe, now that I know that helicopters don't use rubber, but it's not going to be a thing in the immediate future. I just don't have the industrial capacity to spread myself that thin. Who won the German Civil War? Bormann. Omar Ali Saifuddin abdicates. Tunku Abdul Rahman becomes Prime Minister. To the dismay of many who saw the Sultan as a reformer of the Federation, the Sultan has abdicated from the federal monarchy, citing a desire to remain closer to the subjects of his birthright. While the Majlis convenes, the Dewan Negara has also appointed a new Prime Minister of Sionan, Tunku Abdul Rahman Putra al-Hajj. Many expect him to be another out-of-touch aristocratic leader of the Federation. His track record of the federal parliament has brought many to shame, and has effectively used his weight as an aristocrat to push for reform and progressive legislation throughout the Federation. As always, time will tell if the Tunku is an effective carrier of the Sultan's will, and his first test is already laid out in front of him, with a ticking time bomb of discontent in Sionan. An aristocrat and a gentleman. I don't even know where this is. Who are we talking about here? It doesn't once say what country this is. Turkey? Thailand? Indonesia? No idea. Royal University charters, increasing the academic base and the research facilities. That sounds good to me. The horrendous state that Russia has been in for the past decade has all kinds of consequences for the millions of Russian civilians forced to dodge bullets and artillery shells that the warlord selfishly fought amongst themselves. However, now that Rurik II has restored peace to central Siberia, there may yet be a glimmer of hope for this unfortunate generation. The king has thoughtfully decreed that royal universities are to be established in every major town currently under his protection. These esteemed centres of learning will provide education to all of Rurik II's subjects and give the youth of Russia a chance that they haven't had in years, the opportunity to receive a proper education. And don't really need that one. Moderate increase to GDP, invest in scientific research, that one would be good. So we need another 15 political power before that. Meanwhile, we're actually ticking closer and closer to industrial equipment. We only need another 16 points. Cool. Sionan, the Japanese word for Singapore. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, it even says Sionan. Ha! And there he is, Tunku Abdul Rahman. Doesn't have a focus tree. Doesn't have a focus tree, it just has elections. Yeah, this mod's on stream. On Steam. Look for The New Order. Last Days of Europe. Thought it was a sci-fi mod for a moment. Well, compared to most Hearts of Iron mods, it kind of is, because this is in the 1960s as opposed to the 1940s and 30s. We're currently 1966. Nagasaki Accord signed, bringing peace to Vietnam. After years of abortive uphill negotiations between the Communist Party of Vietnam and the Empire of Vietnam, the two parties finally came to an agreement regarding peace in the region. The Nagasaki Accord is hailed by its signatories as a symbol of a new age for Vietnam, and establishes a path for the future of the country in the co-prosperity sphere. In the settlement, it's been agreed that the Emperor Bao Dai is to abdicate following public elections, and the status of Vietnam as a Japanese partner is to be elevated in the near future. Thousands have gathered in Vietnam's major cities to celebrate the end of political conflict across the nation, but various members of the imperial court, as well as the Prime Minister Nguyen Dinh Diem, have vanished from the public sphere following their harsh disapproval of the accords. What remains, however, is a tense peace between the Vietnamese government and the Viet Minh, now forced to share the young and fragile something. Fresh air at last. UI is sometimes really nice, but if you look at the naval or aircraft, I didn't mind it that much. I think I have far less of a problem with this than a lot of other people do. It's just more of a, like, an engineering design using line art. It's just old school graphics. We no longer get the effects of civilian austerity or military austerity. So the military austerity we want to continue, but the civilian austerity we want to stop doing, because that was reducing our construction speed. So we're going to go to the economy. We're going to do reduced military spending. Boop. And that should keep our military spending down. Unfortunately, the civilian spending is where it's really expensive. So that's where we do need to be a little concerned. And our deficit's now 5.3 billion a year, which is not good. Poet! How are you guys doing? Thank you very much for the raid, Poet. How was the interview? How were the interviews, I should say? There were more than one. So Poet was just conducting interviews with the players from the European Universalis 4 Unity Clash, which was just before this. And we have a decision available. I would like to invest in this scientific research, please. Thank you. And we have factories available. Aha. Okay, so what do we want to do next? Do we want to continue doing infrastructure, beefing up some of our output? Up here in the north it could be good. That's a lot of chromium. Are we actually exporting any of these goods? I don't think we are. No. 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 We're importing rubber, and no. So we should probably start actually building factories again. And seeing as we haven't researched the military factory construction speed, we're going to go with these ones. We'll build civies in all of these locations. And we could also try to build some more oil refineries, but quite frankly I think it's just going to be cheaper and easier for us to just import the rubber we need. We have free trade for a reason. And we should get this stuff built really quickly. And the more factories we get going, the faster that production will go as well. Actually, I'm not going to build quite as many as I have queued up there. Reduce you to 3, reduce you to 2. We'll still build the one in Kansk. Okay. Although we're going to have a lot of production slots, so it's not going to be a massive problem. Royal University Charters, complete. So now we can re-establish the trade routes, knowledge of Tomsk, or the Siberian Wealth. So Siberian Wealth will give a bunch of new resources to various provinces. This will increase our societal development, industrial expertise rather, and this will give us that free infrastructure. I think I want to do the infrastructure so that I can just start building infrastructure everywhere. This also leads to the poverty rate, although that requires all of the previous one, so yeah, let's do this one first. The kingdom's infrastructure is still in a less than ideal state, and as a result, any and all commerce that comes and goes through the king's lands will encounter many inconvenient difficulties on their journeys. Siberia is a vast, harsh land, and without proper roads, a trip through the region is a daunting task indeed. Sponsored by His Majesty's Ministry of Finance, New trade routes are to be established throughout the kingdom. Roads that still require repairs will get the attention they need, and the extensive trade outposts will be constructed in even the most far-flung corners of Siberia to give weary travellers a place to find respite. Emperor Bao Dai abdicates. Communist Party swept into power. The results were worse than could be imagined. There was little that could have been done to sway the Vietnamese people to maintain as emperor, but the fireworks shot up through the streets of Hanoi, Saigon and Haiphong. There was no reason to continue listening to the results on the radio. 79% in favour of the Communist Party and as such his own abdication. Nearly 4 of every 5 Vietnamese men, sure, the soldiers were afraid of Ho Chi Minh's new government as he was, and most of the politicians wanted to hold on to their rank. Prime Minister Dien vanished into the night, the coward likely running with as much gold, generals and the higher-ups. Those that were left stayed inside the royal complex, listening to Ho Chi Minh's speech from the television inside, as did every Vietnamese who was lucky enough to have one. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. Better industrial equipment. Here we go. We've just gone up. The economy is doing great, and new reforms in industrial subsidies have resulted in shipping of updated industrial equipment across the country. Products are being produced quicker and cheaper. The further progress of mechanization, the once ossified industrial world, will prove a boon to the worker and the manager alike. No more long, horrible hours, no more subpar products screwed in by imperfect human hands. Industry continues her march forwards. There was a long time coming, however. Increases in budgets and a renewed focus on what our industries are making have increased support for much-needed renovation of our country's industrial equipment. Excellent. 10% more resource gain efficiency, 10% more construction speed, and then also 10% more factory output and 20% more dockyard output. Those are all really good. And actually, the extra resource output also means more GDP growth. Now, we just got the industrial equipment, which was you. And you are improving at only 2 a month now. That's down from like the 8. I mean, it's still rising, but it's rising a lot slower now. This is the same playthrough, yeah. We've just grown a bit. We've gone from Kemerovo to the Grand Principality of Central Siberia. See? Bossman's still here. New decisions. We can invest in construction. That actually sounds really good to me. Plus 15% construction speed. Don't mind if I do. And also the returning expatriates would be good for the extra manpower. Still short on planes. Because we're still short on rubber. There's only so many planes we can produce. Okay, trade routes have been re-established. So we can get the Siberian wealth or the knowledge of Tomsk. And I think I'm going to go for the knowledge of Tomsk, seeing as we're trying to get those industrial techs finished. Even in the darkness of the warlord era, the intelligentsia of Tomsk have somehow managed to maintain a highly sophisticated society. Art and science have thrived long after the collapse of the Soviet Union. With the city now under Rurik II's control, hundreds of highly intelligent individuals are left wondering what their place will be within His Majesty's realm. The expertise of these wise men and women would be a great boon to the royal cause, and it would be a massive waste not to continue the patronage they received under the CSR. The scientists that once worked in the Republic will be encouraged to lend their talents to us, and they'll be allowed to continue their work without any interruptions. The intelligentsia of Tomsk will know that they have nothing to fear from their new king. Actually, before we get started here, I just need to send a quick message. Okay. Onwards. love the fact that our stability is so good. Plus 19.8% construction speed. Like, seriously, our construction speed is ridiculous right now. Construction speed 143%. And that's even with the poor poverty rate, which is what we're working on right now. Romania goes into isolation. The Romanians have had enough. Between the Reich sponsoring terrorism and the Italians attempting to buy their way into the country, King Mihai has put his foot down. Extensive protection centered around the oil industry have been passed to keep Romanian oil and its reserves out of Italian hands. Likewise, the borders have been massively reinforced and a crackdown on the countryside has begun. Neither Germany nor Italy will be exploiting Romania for the foreseeable future. A surprising stalemate. What's the best nation to play in this mod? I've only played as Kemerovo and I really like them. I would recommend playing them. They're good. I think I want the returning expatriates to be encouraged. We will provide them with encouragement. Knowledge of Tomsk is almost done. There it is. Okay, now we can do the Siberian wealth. Siberia is one of the most bountiful regions on Earth in terms of natural resources, but the constant wars have made it nearly impossible to take advantage of this fact. Now that the guns have finally fallen silent thanks to the efforts of Rurik II and his armies, we can finally turn our attention to the bounties that await us beneath the soil. There are still many mines dotted around the region, dating back to Bukharin's era, that have gone unused since the collapse, and could serve our purposes handily. Harnessing Siberia's resources is a major step towards building a strong economy for the kingdom, and it would be foolish to ignore the vast wealth that lies just beneath our feet. So we'll go and do that. How's the economy? National debt, 11.5 billion. Our interest payments are going to be horrible. Just got to keep that GDP growing. Try and get ourselves some better revenues. I mean, eventually, if our economy grows big enough, then we can reduce civilian spending, and that's probably when we'll start to turn the deficit into a surplus. But right now, I'm all for spending. Time and time again, societies crumble, all will agree. It is usually a small, painful process. However, there are many voices of dissent as to the exact cause. One prominent theory is the foundation of any complex society is education. Moulding adolescents to fit a role in any society is key to maintaining its longevity. When a society experiences conflict, be it economic recession, civil war, or social conflict, money and attention is often drawn away from the schooling, creating a vicious cycle that slows down technological process, discovery, and kills curiosity. So we've switched basic literacy to primary schooling. Production efficiency goes up, research speed goes up by 5%, and then also factory output by +5. So our economy grows ever larger. And we've now got primary schools. However, our development after this is really going to slow down. So we've effectively gotten ourselves a boost to the first level. I think I might turn off encourage political thought so I don't get that pop-up when I don't need it. Manpower is now up to 31,000. Are my armies all trained? I imagine they are. Yeah, they are. Would I be able to train another Streltsy unit? I would need 200 battle tanks. We had, what, 70? I mean, we could certainly start training it. Because we definitely have the APCs. And we're only 42 short. And we're producing more. We just need to wait for the efficiency to go up. Okay, next we have initiate propaganda, which is stability. We don't actually need that anymore. Foreign instructors will be the next one for the army professionalism. Siberian wealth, done. Ah, now we can do it. Click. And then... Now we need to make a choice. We can improve the agricultural mechanization. Foundries of Novosibirsk, which give us a bunch of extra factories. Civilian factories from industrial modernization. And the industrial equipment will begin to improve, which is good, because that one's just finished. Or the poverty rate. Now, how close are we to getting that poverty rate? Because the poverty rate, in many ways, that's holding us back the most. Yeah, I feel like we could probably do with Crown Cooperatives, Industrial Modernization, Novosibirsk, and then Mechanization. And then we'll need to make a choice between these two. And then at that point, we need to start thinking either diplomacy or military, or a mixture of both. But for the moment, like, all of our progress is based on industry, so we want to get as much industry done as we possibly can. Is South Africa still on fire? No, they're at peace. Do I sometimes play board games? I'm myself a big fan of those, mainly expert games such as Terraforming Mars, Eclipse 4, and so on. Yeah, I don't have nearly enough time to do board games anymore as much as I would like. But yeah, I like them from time to time. Oh, what's the one that I really like? Twilight Imperium. That's a great game. Crown Cooperatives. After taking into consideration the wise advice given to him by his Ministry of Finance, His Majesty King Rurik II plans to announce the next big step in aiding his loyal workers, the Crown Cooperatives. Instead of suffering under the tyranny of a rich oligarch, the only authority workers belonging to the cooperatives will have to answer to is the king himself. These cooperatives will be allowed to choose their leaders democratically, and these elected officials will, in turn, answer directly to the crown. Already confident that his ingenious ideas would be a triumph for workers' rights in the kingdom, Rurik II also believes that the cooperatives will go a long way towards increasing the efficiency of the workforce. Heard of it, never played it, too many games out there. It's basically Stellaris, the board game, with a lot of the soft power, hard power possibilities of like EU4. So it's like the politics and diplomacy of EU4 with Stellaris space stuff. Crown Cooperative communes. This monarcho-socialist stuff is amazing. I know, it's such a great idea. What, really? Did the Germans win? No. South Africa was a stalemate, and this happened as a result. The German African states were proven not to be invincible, and kind of imploded.